Welcome back, my lovely students. We are now going to be incorporating the SSS and SAS postulate just a slightly different way. What we're going to do, the directions say to state what additional information is required in order to know that the triangles are congruent for the reason given. So what's going to happen, we're going to state everything that we already know is congruent in the picture. And then we're going to try to mark in any of those tricks up our sleeves that are legal to mark in our picture. So we could, if we have vertical angles, mark those congruent. If we see that two angles are congruent in our picture, we can mark the third angle congruent by the third angle theorem. And we could also mark a shared side or angle. So we could use the reflexive property. So after we mark everything we're allowed to mark in our picture and also state the given, then we're going to say, well, what else should have been marked in the picture to show they're congruent by one of these postulates? So these problems are currently depriving us of certain angles and sides that should have been marked congruent. And without these sides and angles being congruent, we cannot show that the triangles are congruent by SAS and SSS. So I'm going to declare what they should have given me from the start. So then I could have proven triangles are congruent either by SAS or SSS, depending on what the problem is asking. All right, doesn't that sound like fun, you guys? I know, it sounds like a blast. Let's get going. I'm super pumped up. Okay, so let's look at example 5. So again, I need to know what else should have been given to me. What additional information is required to know that, in this case, these two triangles are congruent by SAS? Well, in order to know what piece is missing from my picture to prove they're congruent by SAS, I need to go ahead and mark in everything I'm allowed to mark in as congruent, as well as state what is already marked in my picture. So I'm going to start with what's marked in my picture because that's always the most straightforward thing to do. All right, so currently, do you guys spot any congruent sides or angles in your picture in example 5? Oh man, I see them too, you guys. Segment V to the U is congruent to segment XY. So VU is congruent to XY. And do you guys know why those two would be congruent? Sorry, this says VU. That's a little embarrassing. VU right there. So why is VU congruent to XY? It would be because it's given to me, the given. Nice job, you guys. Now, the only thing marked in my picture so far are these little boxy things. What do these little boxy things mean? Well, those boxy things mean that these are right angles. Now, these are not congruent symbols, so watch yourself. Okay, but what does it mean to be a right angle? Holy hot dog, you guys are right. It means that the angle measures 90 degrees. So if both of these right angles are 90 degrees, are the angles congruent? Yeah, they're both congruent. They're both the same measure. Okay, so I know that these are congruent not just because it was given to me. It was given to me that they were a right angle. I know that these two bad boys are congruent because all right angles are congruent. Okay, there's not like a fancy theorem or definition or postulate that tells us that. It's just the fact of life. All right angles are congruent. So that's just going to be my reason. So I'm going to say angle U is congruent to angle X. And it's because all right angles are congruent. All right angles are congruent. It's got a nice flow to it. All right angles are congruent. They can make a song out of that. You should try to make a song. That'd be pretty cool. But anyway, so now that's everything marked in my picture. And then after you state everything marked in the picture, now you need to see, well, is there anything else I could mark in my picture using one of those tricks up my sleeve? So I don't know. Let's see. I don't see any X's. I don't see vertical angles. Okay, I don't see two angles that are congruent, which means the third angle would be congruent by the third angle theorem. So that's not going to work out. And I also don't have any shared sides or angles. So guess what, you guys? This is all we have. Okay, and this example wants us to show what else should have been marked in the picture so that the triangles are congruent by SAS. Okay, so let's see what we currently have marked in our picture. Okay, so I currently have a side. I need a side for side angle side. So I do have a side, and I do have an angle. I have an angle right here, and I have an angle right here. Now, I got to be very careful for my final side. It needs to be in the correct spot, or else it could go the SSA right, which we know what happens when we do SSA. That's when the demon cats get you. So we're not going to do that. Okay, so if I'm going to do SAS, the angle must be in between two congruent sides, which I have one side and I have an angle. So in order for this angle to be in between two congruent sides, the other side must be here. So the angle is in between the sides. If my side was over here, then it would be side angle, which is the bad one. So watch yourself. So it'd be side WU should be congruent. This is what should have been given to me, but this problem deprived me of my ability to show they were congruent by SAS. But this is what they should have marked congruent, so I could show they're congruent by SAS. So if WU was congruent to XZ, which again, I have two congruent sides with an angle right in between them. So side, angle, side. So I should have been given that WU was congruent to XZ. That is the additional piece that I needed. Unfortunately, the problem did not provide it for me. But that is, when I go to make a formal complaint to example 5, I will tell them this is what should have been included. So that's kind of the concept what you're trying to do. What else should have been marked in your picture to show the triangles are congruent by this postulate, which in this case was example 5, which was SAS. So yes. All right, nice job, you guys. Let's get going on example 6.